My wife, Emily, whispered secrets into her phone at 2 a.m., thinking I was asleep. I wasn't. The glow of her screen lit up her face, twisted with a mix of thrill and shame, as she typed out details about my parents' lives, details she had no right to share. We'd been living with my parents, Tom and Linda, for 6 months, rent-free, in their cozy suburban home outside Seattle. After I lost my job as a software engineer and Emily's freelance graphic design gigs dried up, we were drowning in debt. My parents, with their endless generosity, opened their doors without hesitation. "Stay as long as you need," Mom said, her smile warm like the Sunday roasts she made. Dad nodded, his calloused hands patting my shoulder, a silent promise of support. Their home was a haven, wood-paneled walls, the smell of fresh coffee every morning, and Mom's old jazz records spinning in the evenings. It felt like a second chance. But Emily saw it differently. She'd always been restless, her ambition sharper than her patience. At first, I thought her late-night phone scrolling was just work, maybe pitching designs to clients. But then I noticed the way she'd angle her screen away from me, her fingers flying over the keyboard with a kind of urgency that felt wrong. One night, I caught a glimpse of her messages before she locked her phone. "Tom's been meeting with a lawyer. Something about a will." She'd written. My stomach churned. Why was she documenting my parents' private lives, and who was she sending this to? I confronted her the next morning over breakfast. The kitchen smelled of bacon, and Mom was humming as she flipped pancakes. Emily's eyes darted to her plate, her fork trembling slightly. "It's nothing, Jake," she said, her voice too casual. "Just venting to a friend." But her friend wasn't just any friend, it was her ex. Ryan, a slick real estate agent who'd always had a knack for exploiting opportunities. I pressed her, my voice low so Mom wouldn't hear. "What does Ryan need to know about my parents' will?" For Emily's face flushed, and she mumbled something about helping us get ahead. I didn't buy it. Over the next few weeks, the tension in the house grew like a storm cloud. Emily became a shadow, slipping in and out of rooms. Her ears perked for any scrap of information. She noted Dad's late-night calls, Mom's doctor appointments, even the way they argued over small things like who forgot to water the roses. She'd scribble these details in a notebook she kept hidden under our mattress. I found it one day while changing the sheets. Pages filled with my parents' routines, their finances, their vulnerabilities. Each entry felt like a betrayal, a knife twisted deeper into the trust my parents had so freely given us. I loved Emily. She was fierce, creative, the woman who'd once stayed up all night with me mapping out our dreams under a starlit sky. But this was different. She was unraveling, driven by some desperate need I couldn't understand. I begged her to stop. "They're my parents. They're giving us everything." Her eyes flashed with defiance. "And what are we giving them?" "Nothing. We're leeches, Jake. Ryan says he can use this info to help us buy a place of our own. Don't you want that?" Her words stung because part of me did want that, a home, a fresh start. But not like this. Not by betraying the people who'd raised me, who'd welcomed us into their lives without a second thought. I started watching Emily as closely as she watched my parents. I saw the way she'd linger near Dad's study, pretending to dust shelves while he talked on the phone. I heard her hushed conversations with Ryan, promising him something big soon. My heart sank as I realized she was feeding him information about my parents' estate, details about their savings, their property, even Dad's heart condition. Ryan was circling like a vulture, and Emily was handing him the map. One evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until Mom and Dad were out for their weekly bridge game and cornered Emily in our bedroom. "What are you doing?" "Em, you're selling out my family to that snake." Her face crumpled, but she didn't deny it. "Ryan says the housing market's hot," she whispered. "If we know what your parents are planning with their will, we can negotiate. Get a piece of it before it's gone." I stared at her, my wife, my partner, and saw a stranger. "Negotiate," I spat. "You mean manipulate. You're using their trust to scam them." Emily broke down, tears streaming down her face. She told me Ryan had promised her a cut of any deal he could broker with my parents' property. She'd been seduced by the idea of freedom, of escaping the suffocating weight of our failure. I just wanted us to have a life. Jake, she sobbed. I didn't mean for it to go this far, but it had gone too far. My parents' kindness, their home, their love, it was all being weaponized against them. I faced an impossible choice: protect my wife or protect my parents. I chose the latter. That night, I told Mom and Dad everything. I showed them Emily's notebook, every damning word. Mom's face fell, her hands trembling as she read. Dad's jaw tightened, but he didn't say a word, just pulled Mom into a hug. The silence was worse than any lecture. They didn't kick us out, though I expected them to. Instead, Mom looked at me with those kind, tired eyes and said, "We trusted you both. We still do. But you need to fix this, Jake." Fixing it meant confronting Ryan. I drove to his office the next day, Emily's notebook in hand. He was all charm, flashing a grin like he hadn't been plotting to exploit my family. "Just business." "Jake," he said, leaning back in his chair, "your parents are sitting on a gold mine. Emily was just helping us all out." I slammed the notebook on his desk. "Stay away from my family, or I'll make sure everyone in this town knows what kind of business you're running." His smile faltered, and I knew I'd hit a nerve. Ryan thrived on his reputation. He couldn't afford a scandal. Back home, Emily and I had the hardest conversation of our marriage. She was remorseful, broken, but the trust between us was shattered. I loved her, but I couldn't unsee what she'd done. We agreed she'd move out, stay with her sister while we figured things out. My parents, ever forgiving, didn't press charges or demand she leave immediately. "She's family," Dad said quietly. "Family makes mistakes," but I saw the hurt in their eyes, the weight of a trust betrayed. Weeks later, Emily sent me a letter. She was working on herself. She said, trying to understand why she'd let ambition twist her into someone she didn't recognize. She apologized, not just to me, but to my parents, promising to make amends. I didn't know if we could rebuild what we'd lost, but I held on to a sliver of hope. My parents, meanwhile, kept their door open not just to me, but to the possibility of forgiving Emily one day. Their kindness was a lesson in grace, one I wasn't sure I deserved. This story isn't just about betrayal, it's about the fragile bonds of family, the cost of ambition, and the power of forgiveness. It's about how far we'll go for the ones we love, and how far we'll fall when we lose sight of what matters. What do you think? Was Emily's desperation understandable? Or was her betrayal unforgivable? Share your thoughts. And Nerian